So McKesson wants to be able to kind of control self-service, which is kind of an oxymoron. I don't know if you all have witnessed this in the past decade or so, that there's been a lot of chaos in our area of expertise. Too many people have access to too many things, and they're making too many situations that are causing too many answers to only a few questions, and it's absolute chaos. And one of the reasons I always loved business objects is because I was sort of thrust into a management position, to be honest, before I was ready for it. And business objects allowed me to sort of tightly control things without people kind of running roughshod over me, because they had to go through all this governance. But nowadays, it's just not as acceptable to lock people in as we could have around a decade or so ago. And so there's a sort of want/need to be able to do some kind of random analysis within a report without giving them too much access, especially when you deal with the kind of data that we deal with in the healthcare industry. And there's also the whole aggravation of you build them whatever dashboard they want to a T, and then they always ask, well, can I dump it to Excel? Can I take this chart and put it to Excel? It's like, well, why'd you make me build this, right? So what if we could kind of create a controlled environment inside of Webby that would allow a user to create their own analysis and maybe even charts? So let's take a look at what that could possibly look like. All right, go find the link here. Sorry, doing it this way, it's hurting my neck. All right, so what we have here, go to full screen. The Zoom is killing me. All right, I'm going to pull this over. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we're in Webby right now. This is a custom component. We use Need4Viz to pull in custom components to the SDK, but it's an SDK. You can create your own custom components. You can grab a subscription to high charts to make a connection. I suggest either Squirrel or Need4Viz, but whatever you want to do, Business Objects makes it relatively a non-thing to be able to customize your experience. So what we have here, it looks like Excel because it basically is Excel. And what I think is really neat about this is the ability to sort of control. So we can see this is the data that we're looking at, right? It gives us a nice little summary at the top there. But what the better part is that we can change this layout real quick. We want to go and see this in a nice crosstab. We can do that. Come back out here, change it back to a nice classic form for the user. And what's really cool here is we can click this button, and now this is where, okay, let's say we want to add some more data here, and it's just like a pivot table in Excel. And so now we have a nice little crosstab, and we have more data, and those that use Excel can sort of go crazy here, right? So if I want to, I can maybe take some stuff out, take out these keys, right? I can add a filter in here if I wanted to filter by material number or something of that nature. But what is really great is to add the calculated value, right? So let's say I wanted to do, let me do a sum one. It actually tells you whether it's a count or a sum, right? So I'll do this minus our update value here and apply. And now I have a new calculated value here, which I should have named, but I didn't. Sorry. Go here. We'll name it difference. Apply. All right. Let's go to our options. Compact. So basically it's taking, I forget which one we did. I think we did a lookup value versus the sales, right? But what's actually really nice about this, and this is what we want to ultimately use it for, is the ability to, you can actually click in to one of these fields and you can edit the input value. And so we want to do eventually is edit that input value and be able to take the flat file and send it out to a network drive and have an automation or something pull the flat file from a network drive and update the database. So the users can go in here and sort of have an area to do write backs to the database. Take that out. And you can also add some charts here. You can actually combo it. So you wanted a chart over here on the left. It's just like creating your own custom little pivot tables in Excel. And we can change which one, update value. You can come over here. We can edit it to just one. So it's essentially the idea here. And honestly, I had a little bit more, but this is just annoying to do from the side here with my computer. But the idea here is that we've given them a true version of Excel inside of business objects, because that's what people do so often. They're always taking things and they need to have it in Excel. It's like, okay, well, we'll give it to you in Excel, but what we think is the greatest potential about this is the fact that instead of them just dumping a whole data set into Excel and who knows doing what, we can actually control. This is just a Webby component, right? This isn't anything special. This is just you filling up just like filling up a block with data, except now we're telling the reader, and a lot of our users only have reading mode access, which is why this is a thing. And we're not in SP3 yet at Mother McKesson. And so we don't have the ability to do some of the intelligence viewer things that Roxanne was showing that the user base desperately needs. And again, we just don't want them messing around with the report and the business objects and all those things. We just don't. So this was a way to sort of compromise and give them the ability to eventually do some really cool ad hoc self-service. And it's just in its infancy. There's a couple issues with it. Some with caching the values. We found that on a certain browser, even after we've updated the component, that their cached version of their pivots and charts were still there. So we have to work that out and figure it out. But some of our more experienced Excel users are really liking this. They can stay in it and they can export it and they can share it. They can send it to PDF and do all of those really great, fun things. And another thing that I wanted to sort of share with you all wasn't necessarily on the docket, but it was something that had just come up recently at McKesson, and we used Webby and some really, I think, cool visuals to sort of settle the score, if you will, of what was going on. I'll bring up my PowerPoint here and kind of give you the lay of the land. So we ingest claims and remits from various different hospitals, doctors' offices, whatever. So a narrative, I don't know if anybody deals with narratives at where they work, where a story will just spread around the company and then all of a sudden that's the truth. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Someone could squawk that Alan's tall and it'll get around all the offices at McKesson and someone will think I'm 6 foot when I'm barely 5, right? We deal with that all the time. And so one of those narratives started surfacing around Ontada, which is a cancer and genomic data research company that McKesson owns, is that we are having interruption in claims data. And because of that, we are losing potentially millions of dollars, meaning McKesson was mad at us, really, if I want to be honest. However, we didn't have any dashboards. We didn't have any data sets. We didn't have anything to prove this theory other than some Excel analysis that was performed by data scientists that are spread out all over the country, and we have no idea what they're doing. So they're claiming that millions were missing in expected claims versus what they were showing, and each claim represents about 20 cents, which is not a lot, but when you're talking millions and you're talking by the month, that's actually a lot of money. So they initially asked us to create a report that would compare this year's quarter versus last year's quarter, this year's 3 months versus last year's, prior year's 3 months, and put it out on a grid. We said we can do that and we'll deliver those reports via InfoBurst, but we want to take it a little bit of a few steps further. So I want to show you all what we did and kind of quickly talk about those results a little bit. Man, everything looks really large on this monitor. I don't know if it's settings on my PC, but at any rate, so what we did for them is we laid out all the comparisons that they wanted on KPI tiles, and we gave them indicators to tell them if the trend was up or down. And so we're going to put where you're at now up here and where you before down here, what was your change percentage in the trend. That way we can eliminate narratives pretty quickly, right? And if you look at this current 3 months versus last year's 3 months, it's about the same. The 6 months period, we're down a little bit. 9 months, we're up. Over the year, we're up. This quarter, we're down because we just started, and a little bit down here, and we're up there. So the bat, we don't really have a problem. So then I said, okay, let's kind of trend it out, right? And so if you can see, we put a min and a max band on all of our data, and the min and max band's real small. We don't have a problem. So then they said, well, what about the customers that are more important versus the ones that are a little bit less important? So we gave them the ability to go between CSA and on-market customers, and they can click that, and it's going to filter the report for them as well as drill in by the year, see if possibly we had an issue during the year. And again, we're relatively steady. We had a dip. This might have been where something was noticed by a scientist and caused a panic and all kinds of nonsense. I mean, we spent ridiculous amounts of money doing all these things and chasing our tails for money that wasn't there. But again, you can see it's a relatively stable trend. So we're knocking back some narratives. They wanted to see the individual time series, and they also wanted to have something flashy, to show during a presentation. So we said, okay. I don't know if you guys have seen this trend on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff, a bars race. So we gave them a historical bars race, and we can see some of the customers that are going up, but your normal customers or big 5 or big 10 are relatively stable. It's a stable business. More narratives are smashed by some data. Right. And if you don't want to see this go on a loop in the race, you just go back to your regular bar chart. Now, They also said, well, we might have some big heavy hitters that are a problem, right? We want to see our big guys. We want to be able to drill it. Great. Let's drill it. We drill it into AOA. It's one of our bigger customers. You can see that the entire dashboard changed. Again, this is typically, looks nice on a single screen. It's kind of over enlarged here, but same thing. We took all those KPI tiles that were on the right side going down. We put them right in your face. We gave them a little bit of this is your client average for the past 6 months. This is what everybody else is at. So we know this is a heavy hitter. We can go back and see pretty quickly, hey, they're active. This is their trend. And we also gave them a little month over month chart. So again, we're just smashing narratives left and right with the data.
So that current month with 56% changes because it's not a full quarter.
Yeah, it's not a full quarter. Yeah, I had to explain that a couple of times. So it's actually something I'm going to go back. We're going to use some HTML that will allow when you hover over that KPI tile, it's going to tell you, by the way, this current quarter compromises X days, previous quarter was Y days. So just like all of our reporting, dashboards aren't just enough. So what we did here, and this is really what I think happened to explain why the narrative happened. So we have some customers over here that no claims for 6 months or more, but yet they have contracts with us. What the heck, right? So we're chasing them down. That's not a lot of people, but they're there. And we send it out in an info burst every week when I have a meeting to harass people about this. So what we found is that when we say current month, we're actually a month behind. That's just how healthcare is, right? What we found is that during the beginnings of the month, your previous months are way behind. So when I opened this report at the same time last month, I had a bunch that were last claim sent was in March. Now I have about none. And if we go here, we have a bunch of claims for this month that haven't been sent since April. And if we go back to our dashboard, we can see huge screen. We can see that, yeah, sure, we're down a little bit, but that's because April hasn't trickled in yet. There's a trickle effect. Things in healthcare, you might not want to hear this, but things in healthcare from a technology standpoint are behind, right? Because we have other things that we're focused on. We're not focused on a lot of data and computers. The world is changing in healthcare, and that's not going to be the case over the next couple of years, but generally speaking, that is. Investments in the healthcare industry don't always go towards computer nerds. They go towards things like drugs and making sure the monitors that monitor your heartbeat when your hospital work, right? So sometimes ingestion, EMR's information is a little bit behind, and that's what we're dealing with. So the point of the story is that we had a massive problem that wasn't even a problem. And we developed a dashboard, sent out some info bursts, and we're able to smash a narrative and quiet some squeaky wheels with a very simple set of reports and dashboards. And again, this is not anything groundbreaking or wild. No offense to myself. It's just taking data, telling you where we're off and where we're not, and sending it out. And they get this report every month. They get the dashboard and the exceptions every week. And we're actually going to make another one that kind of digs further by the week so we can kind of maybe have that trickle effect not be such a thing. And what I want to do is eventually I want to get the advanced pivot table put on this report, because we have the sort of original style pivot table in here, and you can see it takes a while to bring up, and it's just a little bit clunky and it's not as pretty. And again, it's actually, it's kind of, you can see it right here. This shouldn't be a hard object to move, but it's just an object that's heavy. So that's why we want to use the advanced pivot table, and they can do a lot more. And if anybody is over here questioning whether or not we have issues with our claims data, they can do their own analysis using pivot tables. Even though my analysis is solid, I hate to be, it's solid, but if they don't think it's solid, we still have a problem, then they can come in and they can use pivot tables to do their own custom chart, their own custom count, and we're going to get the advanced one put in that I was showing, so they can make their own variables if they really need it. And that way, you know, smash narratives, don't waste time in meetings talking nonsense, prove your point with your data, and get the heck out of there and save some money. And that be it. No, you can get advanced pivot tables in 4.2 SP2. You just have to, yeah, talk with someone at Infosolve. But you can, there's an add-on product called Need for Viz, and I'm pretty sure Squirrel could probably do something similar. But yeah, it's just using the SDK to just kind of do a little bit more than Webby typically does. Yeah. No, this is 4.2. We're looking. Oh yeah, that one was, yeah.
Custom elements, you would have to write your custom element you want to include inside Webby.
This is not legal.
So as well.
So the pivot.
You'd have to build that own custom element, whether you're in 4.2 or 4.3.
No, I'm talking about the 14 one that we data model, like we did this one here.
Same deal. It's custom.
This custom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that's already there.
No, I wish.
So there's third-party products I subscribe to. Already pre-canned custom elements into Webby, then use them right away inside of Webby. Or could point it out, you know, go to a library like high charts, and then write your own and bring in a high chart like custom element into
So which one do you use in this?
this one is a need for this one. Okay, so the third-party component, okay, and you pay a subscription on an annual basis, get this bunch of different components, including this table. Okay? If you pay your subscription, you can utilize them in some of the Webby.
It's not open source.
No, you can create your own open source. I've just found as a consultant, and even before I was doing full-time consulting, that I'd rather pay somebody that's already done it than go and do it myself. And that's actually how I discovered Need for Viz.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of customers.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think that once you figure out how to make the connection to either hit a high charts, or really if you have web developers on your team that know how to use JavaScript, it's just a web app, and it goes and it integrates directly. Like Webby has made this available for us to extend. It's just that people like Paul and Need for Viz are ahead of the game. But no offense, Paul, you can go and use the SDK on your own and kind of get wild. Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people do.
Okay. Any
Cool.
other questions? No, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.